didn't add on there was I did graduate from Georgia Tech, and what's interesting is we homeschool the kids, and that's why when people start talking about public education, it's like I don't have a clue what you're talking about because we never used it. And the other thing what was very important to me was the church I've been in now. It's been at least 33 years, and the reason why I'm so appreciative of this church is because I spent my whole life going to these Twickie Lane churches. And somebody asked me one time, Leonard, what's your doctrine at your church? And I said, what you talking about? I had to go through a whole mental reset because what I did not realize was somebody said I was a communist. And I said, how can you say that? And they said, well, they took the 10 Commandments. They took the 10 tenets of communism. And then I looked at them and said, ooh. And what they told me was, Leonard, communism is a religion. So he said, you've adopted that religion and you don't know it. But he said, this is what has happened. You went to the public school system and you never knew the difference. And so then it was a whole new world opening up to me. So I got a lot to share about that because we are, if you can go to the next one then, please, sir. Here's where we are, the reality of where we are in our nation. You spend the majority of your time, you put all this money into your house, right? And then what happens is the government charges you to use what you own, all right? And then they falsely claim that it's their property. Now, if you don't believe me, I want you to miss 3 consecutive tax payments and call me and tell me how that works out. And then you'll find out who really owns that home. So to me, this is not really true ownership, right? You can go to the next one. As far as the system, and Brian can talk a little bit about this, it's very complicated, it's costly, and the reality is we can't sustain it. And speaking of sustainability, I don't know if people realize it, but this country's broke. We're out of money. Now, at some point, my dad would always tell me, when that happens, the chicken's gonna come home and roost. I see it coming, so what I'm trying to do, this is not about me, it's about God, and it's for the next generation. Because if we don't think that way, if we don't think generationally, what's going to happen is we will manage our environment and we forget there's another generation coming behind us. So I'm doing it for that next generation. Now, we can go back as far as, John Adams and even back to, I really like the Puritan era because they really had an idea of what true ownership was. But I like it when he said that it's sacred as the law of God. So he's making a connection there. I'm going to talk about that also. And if someone's forcing you, all right, to do something, and then they're using your own money now to make you do it, you're paying for your own demise, then that's what you call tyranny. But we've been so, what I call touchy-feel in this country, we've been blessed beyond measure. God has been very gracious to us. But I also know that God will also discipline us too. And that we don't like to talk about. That's a reality that we have to deal with because you're not going to avoid all these children and all of a sudden they say, oops, I'm sorry. There's going to be a price to pay for it. So we can go to the next slide. There's a lot of people sounding off all across the nation on this now. It's not just us. So I just read a nice article and I like what she ended up. She said either you own property or you are the property. Another reality check. So it's going to show we don't own anything. Next slide, please. The other thing, and Brian will talk a little bit about this, you're paying taxes on unrealized gains. You bought your house, right? You're still in the house. Values are going up. You're paying taxes on that value, but you haven't sold the home yet. You know what Kamala Harris said, right? Make them pay for it, 15. It's not realized yet, but we're going to make them pay for it. This is the same thing. This is another communist regime here, and this is how this works. Next slide, please. Now, from a biblical perspective, one thing I know about breaking God's law, you can't do it forever. There's consequences. Now, the 5th commandment says, thou shalt not steal. Now, why do I say that? Taking property away from the true owner, that's stealing. So the government is actually participating in theft. All right? Next slide. We're breaking the 8th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Now here when people are thinking, they get all misconfused. They say, Leonard, I paid my mortgage off. I own that home. I said, really? And they say, yeah. Let's see somebody come and try to take it. Okay, I just give them the challenge. Stop paying the property tax and call me about 3 or 4 payments that you missed, and then we'll see how that works out. All right? Breaking the 10th commandment, you shouldn't covet. The ability to take your property by using a system that will inevitably tax you out of your home. That's what you call coveting. If Sarah has $1 million house, I'm going to say, God bless you. More power to you. Anyone else has a $2 million home, God bless you, okay? If God bless you that way, that's the way it is. So we shouldn't covet our neighbor's property. So now, she has $1 million home, we're going to make her pay more for it. No, that's her, she earned that. That's her house in the story. Government should have no involvement in it whatsoever. All right, next slide, please. Also, when you try to fix your home up, you pay a price for that. All I did was, my roof had to be replaced. My deck's falling apart. Landscaping, bricks going lopsided one way or the other. And the guy comes into my house and he says, oh boy, he said, you really have improved this place. I said, no, it's called maintenance. The house is falling apart. Well, you know, that's going to take your value up. Now, why would what kind of incentive is that for me to invest in my house and keep putting money and then you're going to tax me on something that you're not even, I'm using this. So then you get third-party appraisals. Now that's another increased governmental cost. And then they can do it on site. Sometimes they don't even come back. Now we have drones now, right? We fly over your house. We go to them and look at their home. Well, they sold that one for $300 and this is for $150. Maybe we should make theirs $200. No rhyme, no reason. Okay? Now, we go to the next slide. Then when you have to contest it, guess what? You have to pay for that. Because you got to get it appraised and everything. Your house now, you got to prove to the government that this is what it's worth. All right? And then you take your time and then additional expenses. You got to, all that goes up. And then the government, what has happened, the reality is this. The government growth has exceeded the private sector ability to sustain it. That's what's happening. You can't do this forever. So at some point, like I said, the chicken's going to come home to roost. All right, next slide. This is my favorite one. My daddy told me this time and time again. And I used to always remember when I was doing bad stuff, he said, okay, son, I'm telling you, the chicken's going to come home to roost. I used to laugh at it. Then all of a sudden, butt got kicked. It wasn't so funny anymore. So I had to deal with the reality of, if you break God's law and if you sin, there are consequences. We don't think that way, especially Christians. They just think, well, you pray, you rub the magic genie, and everything. No, it doesn't work that way. Mama said when you get on your knees, put some feet on those prayers. So, next slide. Now, Lizzie mentioned about the current legislation, all right? They had this committee set up. It's been 2 years now. And then Brian and I, we went down and provided testimony to the House Ways and Means Committee. And we also did the Property Tax Review Reform Committee. Did all that. I think we got, what, about 40 bills now, Brian?
Something like that, yes.
40 bills out there. All right? Next slide. Now, this is what we ended up with. 836 pages that did nothing. And they were patting themselves on the back. Oh, we're looking good going into the next session because now we got a foundation. So now that'll be another 2 years, that maybe even longer. Okay? And even if they do something, you know what it is? It's going to be like kind of kicking the can down the road. Now, that's what we're doing. We're kicking the can down the road. All right, next slide. All right, now, I'm going to make this short and sweet. Where are we going? All right? First of all, we want to eliminate the property tax. And that's when people panic. You can't do that. I said, oh, it's going to happen. It may not happen on my lifetime, but guess what? We're going to set the foundation for it. And so, again, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for God's glory because I know it's right. God did not want the government to own your property. When Moses went over to the promised land, he didn't give the land to Moses. He said, I want you to give it to the people, divide it among them. I don't want you to let them get scattered and don't tax them because I want all my people to stay together. Now, they blew it, but that's okay. We knew what happened, right? But we know better now. You know why? Because he gave us that example to look at and say, well, we shouldn't do what they do. But see, we kind of look at the Old Testament and kind of discount it. But what he's doing, he's showing you how I operate. And the whole Old Testament is pointing toward who? Christ. That's the foundation. Now, I'm not telling you to force read the Bible and make that fit. I'm just saying if you don't see that fit, you need to start asking yourself some questions. All right? Now, as far as the long-term path forward, we want to drive true ownership. In other words, if I sell my house to you, you buy my house from you, you buy from me, no one's involved in that except you and I. That's it. That's the way it's intended to be. It's not that complicated. Oh, can you see them on your way?
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing, what people don't realize, we're trying to generate economic growth. So when outsiders come in and they see families are stable, they know we got ownership, a good chance when you own something, you're going to stay for a while. Because now you're going to buy your house and you're going to go into your home with the children and the family and stuff like that. That attracts businesses. And they see it and say, hey, you know what, this probably is a good staying population. All right? We also promote limited government. I asked this question to the politician, what is the role of government? Can't get a straight answer. It ain't that complicated. Now, the way it's supposed to be, imagine 3 circles. The family circle is supposed to be like this. Okay? Then the next circle should be what? The church.
Church, yeah.
All right. And then what's the third?
Civil.
Right. Now you know what the civil should look like?
Yeah.
You know what the civil is like now? Church is impotent and gone into hiding. I have to fuss with my pastor all the time about this. It's like, you know, we got to get out because the gospel has to go out. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking the gospel with me.
Amen.
And you have to take the law and the gospel. You can't separate them because I'm bad to the core. I need law. And if you don't believe that, my mama told me, she said, I didn't have to teach you how to lie, cheat, and steal. You already knew how to do it. She was right. All right. Next slide. And then we talk about economic growth. Generational wealth is something we don't talk about. All right. If I have a family, I want to own something to transfer it to my family. I don't want the government involved in that. You're taking my generational wealth that I want to transfer to my children so they don't have to start in the hole. And by the way, look and see what the average cost of a home is now. And see these young people trying to get in. The average age now for a young person to get in, they're pushing almost mid-30s now. So this is what is happening. Now, let's go a little further. We got taxes based on need. That's what we're talking about. Now, why do I say that? Here's where you got to have some out-of-the-box thinking. You got to reassess your priorities. You got to eliminate a lot of waste. Oh, there's so much waste. We're worrying about football stadiums. And it's funny how they can come up with millions of dollars. Now, they can't fix. They can't give your money back. But all of a sudden, if a stadium's getting ready to move, millions comes out. We'll give you this. Where'd that money come from? You see, so the whole thing, and there's no accountability. Everybody's rubber stamping everything. That looks good. That's no challenging at all. Okay? Next one. Why do I say property ownership? Because no tax should be tied to your home. In the story, that is yours. Government should have no involvement. We're striving for an ideal flat tax based on the net income or minimal definitive sales tax. No progressive taxation. So in other words, if you make $10 million, I'm going to fix your rate at say 2%. It really should never get over 8%. Technically speaking, if the government is doing what it's supposed to do, it'd probably be around 3%. If you really look at what we're doing. All right. So now, everybody has skin in the game. He makes $30,000. He can't pay what a guy can pay, but his rate is still the same though. So we all make it fair. All right. I didn't come up with this. It's all in scripture. I'm just repeating what God did. See, that's what makes this whole project easy for me, because all I gotta do is just open it up and say, oh, that's what we gotta do. That's it. All right. Next one. And you pay taxes for services rendered. How about that? If you don't use it, why are you paying for it? And then, you know what? A lot of people telling me, well, Leonard, you got to realize, you got to think about the whole. Yeah, I am thinking about the whole. If you put money in my pocket, I can help somebody out. But if you're taking it all down, I got to give the government and let you do it, and you see what kind of job you're doing. And this is why I say the reason why this has to happen is because this is going to force the church to put up a shut up. If you call yourself a Christian, let's see what you're made of. So now, if there are truly people in need, what do? We come to and rise to the occasion and we do God's work. That's the way it's supposed to work, and not the government. So that's a whole mindset. This is what I call out of the box thinking. But we got a long ways to go, but we can get there. All right? We want to provide details for a proposal. We're working on that right now. And like I told you, this thing is going national. We're partnering with other states. We got Michigan. North Dakota actually has something on the ballot. It didn't pass. You know why? Education. That is the biggest hurdle. Even now when we go out, do you know our biggest hurdle right now? Educating people about this. They see this for the first time and say, I really don't own my home. But we're accustomed to that because now it's become a way of life. We also, when people were bragging about Florida, oh, Leonard, they capped their property taxes, but guess what they did? You know, government, we can't get them here, but we'll move it out and put it somewhere else. They're still having issues. So this whole thing about everybody saying, we're going to move to Florida because they capped their property taxes, that's not true. See, the legislators are living in one world. The reality is down here where we're working every day and trying to take care of our families and we're trying to live. They don't understand it, all right? Next. We're going for a citizen-led constitutional amendment, all right? We're going to do it with or without representatives or senators support. We can do this, all right? So this means we as citizens, Brian and I said we're going to go to every county in Ohio, spread this word. If we only get 2 people from each one, we have someone that we can connect with and we can get petitions going in all the different counties, all right? The reason why I say that is because I'm working with my counterpart in Michigan. God bless her, she's been on this for 4 years now. And she's been to, I think, 46 out of the 80 counties already, and she's still going. And every time she goes, she says she's going to pick up 2 or 3 people. They talk to 2 or 3 people, and next thing you know, the whole county is buzzing. People going to meetings now, stuff like that. So that's what we're trying to do, get that catalyst going. All right? Again, why do I say out of the box thinkers? Because what has happened is the abnormal has become normal to us. That's all we know. That's not your fault, because I can tell you right now, I was way out of the ballpark. And fortunately, through God's grace, somebody started asking me questions, and I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, what happened to me? He said, no, it's not what happened to you. He said, what you didn't do to make you happen, to make this happen to you. This is the problem. All right, let's go a little further. Now, who knows where this statement comes from? Free education for all children in public schools. You know where that came from? Yep. It's embedded right in the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Okay. Let's go to the next one. Abolition of property and land. Oh my goodness. Do we own your property? No? Okay. So check out. You see how the communists work? We're going to dupe them because if we get them to buy into this, we're going to use their own property to fund what we want. They take your children, they get indoctrinated, and it keeps growing. It keeps growing. Now, I'm not saying your child's going to turn out to be a monster if they leave the public education system. The problem is, if this cycle isn't broken, that's what they know. Because the first thing they say, well, look, what are we going to do for public education? Have you seen the results coming from public schools?
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to call it education. That's long gone.
Yes, there you go. So you know where I'm going with this, all right? And then what about the rights of inheritance? You know when I talk about generational wealth? Gone. Now you see how we've adopted all of this, and it's just a way of life, all right? Let's go ahead. And again, I just pulled this right from the Communist Manifesto. Somebody did this to me, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I said, how did I miss that? It's something you did. You never gave it. It never happened to you. So anyway, we are going forward. We're trying to find what we call the Army of 300. Because I found out that God doesn't work on volume, He works on obedience. because he controls the outcome. I just have the privilege of being a part of it. And that's what excites me. Being a part of something huge because I know this is what God wanted. All right? Now, for those of you who wish to come on board, we got all kind of tools available. Brian is the podcast maestro. Video, we do radio shows occasionally, and we're trying to help promote and communicate our mission. So if you get on board, you got things you want to share, we have tools for you to do that. We can do podcasts. Brian can help out with podcasts and things like that. Now we're also learning and growing as we're going through this ourselves, because we find out, we go and talk to certain groups, and then we say, ooh, we didn't know that was kind of missing. So, because people are at different levels, so we have to adjust too. So, but that's coming along nicely. And Brian set up this website on stoppropertytaxes@gmail.com. So if you got we have ways you can communicate with us. You just send us an email or whatever if you got something you want us to look into, or if you got other people that want to join us, then let us know about it. We'll add them to our mailing list, and then we'll start to get information out to them and say, here's where we're going. We'll provide updates. Here's where we are on the amendment. Here's where we're going with the petition, and then that way we can have people engaged as we're moving forward. So one thing I want to say, I think I got one more slide, and it's that's it. Okay. Why limit the property tax? Property ownership is central to a free society. You don't have it, you're done. Property tax is not owned at all. They're just taking your money and fund it the way they want to fund it. That's it. All right? No tax should have the power to leave you homeless. That's immoral. And our founders believe that if government can take it away without consent, then you don't own our property or you live it. You don't have either one of them. Because all you got to do is miss that payment, all that 30, 35 years you work, gone, just like that. So that's just about it for me, because like I said, I'm going to let Brian and John talk about the kind of the nuts and bolts of this. But I was you can check that out down good now. I was there a long time ago because I came to realize that all these years I had been duped, and finally, like I said, God was gracious enough to put me around some very what I call well-oiled theologians. And these theologians started asking me questions about my Christian beliefs. And that's when I realized, wait a minute. I went to all these tweaky land churches, and no one talked about this stuff. But then when they started asking me these questions, then I had to go and dig a little bit more. I had to do some really, what I call exegetical reading of the Bible. And then you can't just go and pick and choose what you want. You have to let it say what it said. Let the Bible interpret the Bible. Because when you do it, guess what? You mess it up every time. It is what it is. You see it, you say it. That's it. It's that simple. And so I'm one of these guys. I'm going to take the gospel with me no matter where I go, because I do this for the glory of God. It's not for me. And all I can tell you is this. We are in a quagmire in this country. No one realizes it. People will mention things like, Leonard, what about inflation? I said, you don't even know what inflation. Do you realize inflation is an excess amount of credit and money supplied into the economic system? The result is prices rising up and down. So the government's even doing that. They even manufacture what's the period they call it? Not the help me out here, Brian. During not the Civil War, the World War I and II, where they had the crisis.
Great Depression.
Yes, there you go. I'm thinking civil rights era and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that was manufacturing.
What was?
The Great Depression.
Oh, okay.
Government manufactured it. And could you know what happened after that? It came through. Oh, we're gonna fix it. See, the government creates the problem and we'll fix it. So we put in Social Security, we put in all this other kind of stuff, and then another scam came out of that. So this is life for us. So our minds have to be renewed and changed. So anyway, I didn't mean to take up too much time. Sorry about that. I'm gonna let